All right, so let me just mention something I mentioned before, so it's on the video. If you want to do the memory corruption exploits that we just talked about in C, then you skip down to this system, and the most important project in this entire class is ED202. That's where you do the basic buffer overflow in Linux, and everything else is based on that. But before we went there, I wanted to go through some simpler ones, so I designed the class to go through these projects for a few weeks before you get there. But if you like that memory corruption and you want to jump right into it, just jump down to these. Anyway, but what I want to talk tonight is command injection and SQL injection. All right. Yeah, that's a very good question, by the way. Where did all the students go? 8 years ago, we had 100,000 students. Now we only have 18,000. It's a very good question. Where did they all go? But they really vanished. Anyway, so command injection is here. And by the way, I think these two projects are the same as in my 129S class, which I didn't really plan. But the fact is, both of these classes have to have these basics in them, so it's not bad. Anyway, so here's a ping form, which you'll see like in your router configuration page. There's a page to test your internet connection, so you can put in an IP address. And I have to use the loopback address because I configured a firewall to block outgoing pings from my server because people exploited it and were using it to attack somebody. This is running on one of my vulnerable servers. Anyway, so if you put in the loopback address and send pings, it just sends 2 pings and tells you 64 bytes from it, so that's not a big deal. But the thing is the way this was done. This is the actual code in PHP that did it. It builds a command with ping -C2 followed by the data that came from the user. So whatever you put in here is just added to this command and then executed. This is how you end up with the vulnerability called command injection, because I took data that came from the user and I put it in a line of command. This is very dangerous, and you cause this by mixing 2 languages. You use one language to make a line of text, which you then pass to a parser, which tries to parse it and execute it as if somebody had typed it in interactively. That is a really poor practice, but it's a very easy way to write code fast. So that means in Linux, you can execute more than one command on the same line by just putting a semicolon in between it. So I can put semicolon ls, and now it will do the ping, and then execute an ls and show me the files in the current directory. And as you see, there's a file there called flag1 that contains the flag. So if you use your basic Linux commands from the previous projects, you can figure out how to look inside that file and find a flag. And there's a bunch of other flags hidden more and more on the server in various locations. So you have to use various commands like grep and find to hunt through the file system and find them. And you'll find out that there is some filtering. Like I think you can't insert a slash. In fact, if I do this, if I do ls, say /temp, and send the pings, it shows you the raw input was this, but it sanitized it. It removes slashes. You cannot inject a slash. It's removed. So now, this ls temp, it didn't find anything because it didn't get the slash. So that's a limitation, and this you find a lot. Certain characters are forbidden, so whatever command you execute, you have to somehow work around the fact that you can't insert a slash. All right. Yeah, I see a comment up there. They did cut the classes that cater towards older people, and they limited it so older people can't keep taking the same class over and over like they used to, like swimming or yoga or something. They removed supporting lifelong learning from our mission, which I think was a mistake, but they didn't ask me. Anyway, so that's the simplest command injection, where you just have a form and you can just put bash commands right there. Now, here's another one which affected a huge amount of Linux servers about 4 or 5 years ago, ImageMagick, an image processing library. So if you have an image, I'm just going to make a screenshot of something. Like, I guess, let's do this. Let's get there. Let's just take a screenshot of the word ImageMagick. Okay, now I've got a ping file that has ImageMagick on it. I'm going to name it im.ping. All right, so if you upload a file, choose a file, and on my desktop it's im.ping. Oh, looks like I put a comma in. It'll probably be all right. Then I upload the image. And there it is. So it creates a thumbnail version of a certain size, And here's the command that does it. The convert command is the command line ImageMagick command. And here's the file I put up there. So if you click that, it will show you the original image. And this is an image processor that you might find on a chat room or a bulletin board or anything. In fact, I just copied general open source bulletin board code to make this page. So the exploit goes like this. You put this text file you make a text file containing that content, and you save it as if it was an image. So let's, I think we're done with this stuff. I'll just put it here. Whoa, that didn't work. Copy. There we are. So I saved that on the desktop as exploit.jpg. So it looks like an image file, but it does not contain an image. And I have to have a dot, not a slash. There we are, exploit.jpg. All right. So now I upload that. Choose file, exploit, upload. All right. And now let's compare that. So what this command did, see, the person that wrote the ImageMagick library, they let you put extra commands in your image file, and this tells it the size of the image, and then it's going to fill with a color. And you can load the color from a URL. So what they did was they take this URL that came from the user and they just put it after the curl command. Just like I took the IP address that came from the user and put it after the ping command. So again, you can, if you put a couple of the right punctuation marks in, quote and pipe, you can now put a command, echo hello, semicolon date. Those are standard bash commands inserted in this file, and you can see they got executed. Hello, date. So we have exactly the same issue as the ping form. You can execute commands by putting them in a file over here. And so you just have to choose the right commands, and you can see what's on that server. And again, there's a bunch of flags to find. So 2 flags, flag 5 and flag 6. You can find on that server. And the last one is more of the same, Drupal command injection. There's a vulnerable website I put up here. This is just running an old version of Drupal. And since it will get automatically hacked by exploits, I put it behind basic authentication. You have to put in student 1 and student 1 just to see the page. That stops automated attacks. And now you just see a default Drupal page. But the point is, this page has a known vulnerability. This is one of the 3 Drupal-geddon attacks. Somewhere in the register a user page, there was the same kind of command injection vulnerability. And to exploit this one, you need to have a Linux box running Python, although I suppose you could probably use a Windows box too, but I usually use Linux for Python. So I quit out of here, and I move into ED102, and let's nano drew demo.py. So we're going to make a exploit file as explained in the instructions. And here's the way to install pip on Debian 10, and here's what you do for Debian 11, depending on which version of Debian you're using. Or you can use other versions of Linux, but I gave you the exact commands. And so here's for Drupal, for Debian 10 and 11. And this program will run in either Python 2 or Python 3, which is good because you don't get Python 2 on Debian 11, not easily. So I just copy that stuff and put it in a file. All right. So what this does is it just goes, see, somewhere in the user registration part of the Drupal page, there is a command injection vulnerability. And you'll see it down here. This echoes a smiley face into the file yourname.txt. And you can't put in a greater than sign. Remember, the last one wouldn't let you put in a slash. This is very common with command injection vulnerabilities, and really exploits of all kinds. Certain characters are filtered out, and you have to avoid them. So you, instead of using greater than your name, it used pipe T, which is a way to accomplish the same thing, to take the output of this and put it in a file without using the forbidden character. Now, another thing about this exploit is after you create a file, you cannot write into it anymore. You have to keep changing the name of the file. So I've already run this. So to make it work, I got to make a different name. And there's 3 places where this name appears. So I'm going to make it 11 your name. That's a page I don't think exists yet. All right. So if I run it this way, it'll go into a file called 11yourname.txt, and it'll put a smiley face in it. That was this exploit somebody wrote. So if I run that, Python 3 Drew demo. Okay, it gives me the URL. If it worked, it put a smiley face in that location on the server. So I go here, and it did. It put a smiley face there. So now I can do more things on the server. I can modify that file again, and I can say I want to put not a smiley face, but I want to do an ls. It'll take the ls and put the output in 11a your name. I got to change the name every time in 3 places. All right, so that should make another file called 11a your name, which will contain an ls, listing the files in the current folder on the server. Okay, so if I go here and put in 11a, let me make this lower so it's visible there. So I go up here and change that to 11a. There you go. And there's a bunch of files. Other students have been creating files like crazy here, so on you go. These are the 2 I just made. So again, you have command injection. It's just a little clumsy. And again, there are some flags to find on the server. So that's the command injection, the bash command injection. I'm going to stop this and make a separate video.